Hello, everybody. So we're going to jump right into the thought of the day. And today I really want to talk to you guys about the explanation of bipolar versus like what the world thinks it is and the truth behind this. And so, this really sparked because I am a part of a ton of mental health groups, obviously. And we were talking about a certain YouTube star who very blankly stated a couple of years ago that you obviously wouldn't want a bipolar person to babysit your child. And obviously, a ton of the people in this group were extremely offended by it, right? Because we're not crazy, we're not demented. A lot of the comments ran around, we're not monsters that eat children. But you can't necessarily blame this person, although, the way he brought it across is very harmful and rude. You can't even blame him so much for his thoughts because there's just not a lot that is understood accurately about these diagnoses. And bipolar is one of them that the large worldview point of is really, really off. And so if you don't know what it is, here's a little clue into what it is. And if you just kind of want to learn more and get a little bit more educated, this is a good video for you. And so even in my personal story, for years, I considered myself not diagnosed, but considered myself or self-diagnosed as manic depressive because the term bipolar didn't fit, if you asked me. Because in my mind, bipolar meant that you were super high and super low in a matter of minutes. And for years, I actually considered my husband bipolar. I'm like, oh, he's bipolar because he cries over spilt milk. He stubs his toe and he absolutely loses his mind, and then 10 seconds later he's laughing and playing and everything's good. And so for years I was so convinced, before educating myself, I was so convinced that that is what bipolar was this very quick high to low response. And for whatever reason, I know that thought is, I'm not alone in that thought. That's a conscious collective thought, is that somebody that's bipolar is somebody that has these huge ranges of emotions and jumps from happy to mad or angry to sad or angry to happy super, super quick. And it's very dramatic and emotional and obviously something to almost be afraid of because you never know what you're going to get from a bipolar person because their personality, so to speak, switches so drastically. And so this was my view. I, joked around all the time about, oh, my husband, yeah, he's bipolar. He just cries over spilt milk because this was such a collective view for me. And so when I first really began having these highs and lows, for the longest time I considered myself manic depressive, not bipolar, because I didn't go high to low super duper quick or have these drastic mood shifts, but I had a manic phase and I had a depressive phase. And bipolar, its actual definition is bipolar manic depressive. It's one thing. They're not two separate things. That is the whole title. And then you have types 1, 2, and 3, and some with schizophrenic tendencies, psychotic tendencies, and rapid cycling. And so you have multiple levels of bipolar, but every last one of them is considered bipolar manic depressive. That is the actual DSM-V term for bipolar. And so, but for years I considered myself manic depressive because bipolar, this worldview of bipolar, didn't fit for me at all. I was just manic and then depressive and then manic and then depressive. Somewhere along the lines in history, they kind of dropped off the manic depressive part of the label just in a conversational basis. It's still there technically, it's still there written in, but when we speak about it, we commonly don't use the whole form bipolar, manic depressive. We just use I'm bipolar, she has bipolar, they're suffering from bipolar. And so along with that drop off of the last part, I think really distorted people's view of what bipolar actually is. And so I'm here to kind of set that straight and say that if your assumptions were the same as mine, I don't blame you, because collectively that's what a lot of people think, but they are so far from the truth. Regardless of whether you're dealing with 1, 2, or 3 psychotic, schizophrenic, or rapid cycling tendencies on this notion, your bipolar isn't moving from one emotion to the next in a split second. The reason bipolar has that full term in its real name, bipolar manic depressive, is because bipolar people are moving from mania to depressive episodes. And so they're depressive episodes. They're manic episodes. They're not moments in time. They're not super heightened emotions for a second. They are episodes. They are seasons in their life. And so to give you a basis of kind of what this looks like, in the actual classification of this, to be somebody with bipolar, you have to cycle 4 times a year, a maximum of 4 times a year. Otherwise, you're considered having rapid cycling. And so our original assumption that these people are going from high to low in a matter of seconds all the time is so far off, because the actual explanation of this chemical imbalance is that they're cycling 4 times a year. They're only switching from mania to depression 4 times a year. And these episodes are not seconds long. They are days, weeks, they're months long. Some of the classifications for it really are affected by the seasons. And so sometimes some people are stuck with their mania or their depression for an entire season. And then they'll balance back out. They'll hit mania for 2 to 3 months for that season of year, and then they're balanced back out, or they're dropped down to depression for a season before they balance out. But regardless, even if yours is not one, or you know somebody that is not associated with the seasonal bipolar that is affected through that, the typecast for this classification is still a maximum of 4 times a year. More than that, you're classified with rapid cycling. And so our worldview of this is just really, really messed up. We were really, really wrong to think that it means up and down in a matter of seconds, because it means highs and lows throughout the course of a year, a few throughout the course of the years. And so mania, when we're talking about mania, we're not just talking about this rage monster that eats children. We're talking about excited energy. We're talking about extreme sexual stimulation. We're talking about ideas of grandiosity. Yes, there is heightened emotions there. There is heightened easier irritation and, components of rage. But we're not talking about this rage monster that's super crazy. We're talking about a naturally elevated state of mind, body, mind, and soul. So the ideas internally, emotionally are more elevated. The physical reactions of the body are more heightened. You're more sensitive to the touch, to the you're easily triggered. It's a whole slew of things, not just this huge rage, scary, crazy idea that we have in our head when a bipolar person switches real quickly, as we assume. So mania in that terms is that it's this heightened sense of emotion in all areas of our lives. And depression is the opposite of that. It's that lower senses of emotion. It's the harder to get out of bed. It doesn't necessarily mean trying to kill yourself. It doesn't necessarily mean stuck wrapped in the blankets for months on end, but it's the more of the apathetic feelings, disinterested, really struggling internally to get out of that state of blank space. And so the worldview of bipolar is just really, really messed up still. We don't know enough about it yet. We've made assumptions. We've created fears and stigmas around something we really don't even understand. And so this video here is kind of just to say that. I understand, and it's totally fine that you don't understand, because I didn't too for a long time. time. But if mental health is something you're struggling with, something you're interested in, or something you just want to educate yourself a little bit more so you can have a more open mind and better sense of reality in the way that you interact with your fellows, know that those of us that are diagnosed with bipolar manic depressive are not these crazy individuals that are jumping from one level to the next. We have heightened senses of emotions and we have lower senses of emotions in episodes that last a period of time. And during these times, depending on what you're dealing with in your bipolar, you may have more of one thing or the other. It may be more difficult for you to do one thing or the other. You may have extreme ideas of grandiosity or hallucinations in your mania. You may have hallucinations or extreme depression in your depressive episodes. But regardless, we are looking at a period of time. We are looking at people that have really adjusted to society because this is their life. Because they're not raging out in the store because they dropped something, but they have adjusted to where for 2 to 3 months, they're a little higher. They're a little bit more energy. And they know at the end of that, they're going to come down. They're going to have a lower part of this phase. And so those that are struggling with bipolar, they're not these crazy rage monsters, but they're actually so intunely adjusted to living in a society where this type of behavior is unacceptable, yet they have to because they're alive and they're here. And so we have adjusted ourselves to form to what is normal in society as best as possible because those around us have not accepted this term for what it is, have not accepted or understand this term and this struggle that this entails. And so before we go around and judge and bitch and moan or make assumptions about what our bipolar friend acts like, or make assumptions that, oh, I think she's bipolar, she's attention seeking, yada, 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 let us educate our little selves and say, and look at the reality situation, which is honoring them for showing up despite their struggle, despite their mania, despite their depression, to showing up and still trying to adjust on a daily basis to the norm of society that you normal folks have set for us, that we naturally cannot fit into because of the way that we were born to be. That's all I have for you guys today. This is the thought of the day for the week. I just wanted to touch base. Thank you so much. If you're listening to this video, please join us at Ignited Minds and follow me on YouTube, Amanda Tromley with Ignite Tromley Coaching. See you guys soon.